Hi, in this film I'm going to explain the ethics of Immanuel Kant. Kant was a child of the Enlightenment, and the Enlightenment motto was dare to reason. And in ethics there are two forms of reasoning that develop. We have the a posteriori reasoning from experience of the utilitarians, and we have Kant's a priori reasoning as a way of deriving the idea of the good. And Kant's ethics can be thought of as the ethics of duty and respect. And he based his starting point on three postulates, and I'm going to talk about one of them, which is autonomy. Autonomy means self-rule or self-legislating, and it implies that we make the moral law up for ourselves. And this is a radical idea, because rather than relying on somebody else, the Pope, our parents, whoever it is, which Kant calls heteronomy, we rely on our own process of a priori reason. And essentially the idea is this, that we step away from a situation and we take a leap of the imagination and we try to apply a number of general principles to our action. And I'm going to talk about two formulae that Kant applied to the idea of deriving the moral good. First of all, we have the formula of law, which states that we should so act that the maxim of our action can be willed as a universal law for the whole of humanity. And the idea is that we take a step of imagination and we ask the question, what would the world be like if everybody behaved like this? And there are two types of consistency that Kant is trying to aim for. And the first is what we call a perfect duty. A perfect duty is one that cannot be the contradiction of which cannot be willed without contradiction. And the example that's usually taken for this is the example of promising. If we try and imagine a world where everybody breaks their promise, then the idea of promising itself would cease to exist. Because within the idea itself is the thought that we always try our very best to keep our promise. So that creates a perfect duty, the perfect duty of keeping our promise. The second type of duty is called an imperfect duty, and this is one where when we take our leap of imagination, we can't imagine anybody wanting to behave like that. So the consistency here is imagining a world where everybody wants a certain outcome. And an example might be if you imagine a situation where every neighbour plays their music at 3 a.m. extremely loudly. Now clearly there's nothing self-contradictory about that behaviour, but it's not a behaviour that we could will universally, because it would imply simply that nobody got any sleep. So Kant argues that by universalising we create two ideas of duty, perfect duties and imperfect duties. Secondly, we have the very radical and I think very exciting formula of ends. And this is often misstated. Kant stated it like this: don't simply treat people as a means to an end, but always also as an end in themselves. And the point is that we can't help using people as a means to an end. You're using me right now, hopefully as a means to get further understanding about Kant. But the point Kant is making is we don't stop there. We treat people with a sort of dignity and respect which we would want should we be in their situation. So imagine, for example, you're standing in the dinner queue at school and somebody is serving you your dinner. The question is, how do you treat that person? Do you treat them simply as a means to an end? Oh, I'll have some of that, I'll have some of that. Or do you treat them as an end in themselves? pass the time of day, ask them how they are, say please and thank you, smile sweetly at them. In other words, as Professor Norman puts it, we universalize our shared humanity. We take a step of the imagination and we ask, what would I want if I was in that person's situation? How would I want to be treated? And we treat that person as if I was doing that job myself. We universalize our shared humanity. And this is an exciting idea because it is a basis for the idea of human rights. Human rights can be derived in a number of ways, for example, by natural law theory, but also here by the formula of ends. We should enshrine in law strong rules and rights that ensure that people are treated with the dignity and respect that they deserve as rational human beings. The ultimate end, says Kant, is the summum bonum. There is a bit of a teleological aspect to Kant, although it is a deontological theory, because when we universalize, we imagine an end which is a better world. But that isn't the reason why we behave. The reason that we behave like that is because we love the moral law, and so we pursue our actions out of the goodwill, or what Kant called duty for duty's sake.